What's going on, guys? So we are out here at eTrailers corporate headquarters. Got a lot of cool stuff going on. Give a wave if you work for eTrailer. Anybody working for eTrailer? Oh, I got this guy. There we go. Got our eTrailer folks out here. This is a really cool event. This is Tow Day. What is Tow Day? It's today. I'm kidding. That sounded funny, but the whole point is that all these manufacturers who you guys sell equipment for, comes out and they talk about the pros and cons of their products, right? What makes them stand out. It gives you guys an opportunity to train your internal personnel as well on how these products work, how they can benefit neighbors, customers, and folks who go to the website and might be a little confused about what the right product is for their specific towing applications. So that is really cool. So in front of me today, I have Laser. That's really his name, Laser. He's got one of the coolest names out here. And you got some brothers with some cool names too, right?
Yeah, Rocket and Gunner.
Rocket and Gunner. Seems like there's a military heritage behind all this.
Parents were hippies.
Okay, very cool. So, yeah, we got Laser with us today, and he is a product expert with eTrailer, so he actually works for eTrailer. And this kind of, goes to show you how they have folks internally that their entire, job is to know and understand this equipment, which is super cool. So if somebody calls and they get you on the phone and they're looking for a fifth wheel hitch, what is your direction? What do you try to do at that point? How do you field out what the best product for them might be?
Well, first thing we need to do is figure out how often they're going to be towing. How often they're going to be towing, how much their camper weighs, basically how much they're going to be using it, what it's going to weigh, and then we kind of go from there. Okay. So if they're going something real heavy, we'll point them towards this Reese, because that's 27,000 pounds. It's one of the higher rated ones we carry. If they're just towing pretty small camper, they're not really towing very often, we've got some pretty inexpensive options with the Kurt right here. It's rated to 16,000 pounds. It's inexpensive. It's actually one of our best sellers because it's so inexpensive and easy to use.
Okay, well, good deal. So we have a lot of fifth wheel hitches that are positioned out here, and they're from various different manufacturers. We got Reese, we have Kurt, we have Demco, B&W, all sorts of really great products. Now, a question I also have is brand.
Yep.
When does brand come into play?
It actually does quite a bit. You would be surprised how many people stick with one specific brand. B&W is one of the big ones because they're not necessarily overbuilt, but they're built to last, and they're sturdy. They kind of last forever.
Yeah, I've been a big fan of B&W products, and I think the two things that have driven me towards them, primarily the fact is they're sturdy, well-built, sturdy, but they're also simple to use.
Yes, they definitely are. And they're also American-made, which is a big plus. But if you're looking at sliders, say this one compared to this Kurt right over here, Kurt, you have to get out, pull your latch, slide back. Once you make your maneuver, you have to get back out, slide the latch, and then slide it back. So it's a little bit of a pain. With the B&W, though, you get out, pull this lever up, make your maneuver, it slides back, and then you just back up and it'll actually slide back on its own. So it's a much easier system to use. So it's a little bit more expensive, but it's also easier to use. But then you get into this Demco right here, which is the auto slide, and you don't have to get out at all.
Yeah, go over this one with me.
It is a little bit more expensive than some of the other options, but this one's really worth it because you don't have to get out of your vehicle at all when you're making your maneuver. As soon as this head turns, it engages a mechanism in here, and it slides back. Make your maneuver. Once you straighten out, it slides back again without you ever having to get out of your truck. So it's a nice system to use.
Anytime you're looking at a slider, you're looking at a significant increase in weight as well. Correct, though, right? So I guess the challenge sometimes you then deal with is how easy is it to put the system in place. So is there a way to kind of identify challenges that somebody might have with the weight of a system? How do you ask those questions?
So basically, we would ask if they have someone that can help get it out of the truck if they're not going to be keeping it in there full time. This one is, these two are about the same. They're about 240, 250 pounds. They're definitely on the heavy side. This one is a little bit lighter, probably around 200 pounds. They do all come apart, so you can technically take them apart and take them out, but that's kind of a pain in the butt as well. What's nice about the B&W, we don't have an example of it, but they have a little tool that you can actually lock in the jaw, and it attaches to like a chain pulley system if you have one in your garage, and you basically just yank it out of there. So this is actually one, with it being one of the heavier ones, it's actually one of the easier ones to remove once you get that tool and a chain pulley system hooked up.
Yep, and it's just really the nature of the beast. When you're dealing with products that have to be able to support anywhere between, 2,500 and 4,000 or 5,000 pounds worth of downward pressure, and to be able to pull, 18,000 pounds, 21,000 pounds, 20,000 pounds, they need to be built heavy and strong.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep, there's a lot of brands.
One of those up there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of brands out there who try to reduce the weight, but by doing so, you lose sliding features, you lose other features, and capacity as well.
If it's built well, it's built well, and that's the way that I always go with them.
Yep, very cool. So let's look at some of the other hitches you have out here.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we have a B&W companion hitch right here, and define companion. I mean, I know what it means, but for viewers, if somebody goes, okay, why would I want the companion product from B&W?
So the companion, one of the big pluses with this is you actually don't need bed rails with it. So this will attach directly to a gooseneck hold, if you can see in the bed right here. A little dark, but so what that does is that allows this shaft to pop right into it, and once you take it out, your bed's completely clean. So it's one of the big pluses with people that don't want to have bed rails in their truck full time, and it clears up the bed a lot easier for them.
Okay, so now we are over here and we're looking at several different products. We have the Reese Goose Box, we have the Gen Y over here, which is a really cool conversion as well, plus the Demco Recon and Airborne Sidewinder. Since these two right here are arguably the most unique, and real quick, this is the Gen 2 Goose Box. The Gen 3 Goose Box is on display in another area, and we'll do a full video on that. But let's talk about the pros and maybe a few of the cons of going to a gooseneck style connection, both from Gen Y and from Reese. So what's your take on these products?
So big pros. There's not a whole lot, actually, yeah, there's really not a whole lot of cons with them. They are heavy, they're a little expensive, they're kind of hard to install. That could be the cons. Pros, once you put this thing in, it's in, you're good, and they're usually rated higher than a lot of other things. But one of the big pros is you don't have to mess with a fifth wheel hitch or rails anymore. So they attach directly to a goose ball. So once you're done towing, pop your goose ball out, clean bed again. So it's another one of the pluses with that.
Absolutely. So something that I know people are always going to want to know about this type of replacement, you lose the plate.
Correct.
So, and the plate to some folks means stability. It means, you know, less side-to-side movement. Have you noticed that with any customers who have switched? I personally use the Goose Box. I don't feel like I've noticed any difference, like it's less stable side-to-side. But have you ever had customers that have called and said, you know, we bought it and it's a different experience that we can't live with?
You know, honestly, I never actually have. And I've been here since 2015, so I've taken a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails, a lot of stuff like that. I've never actually had anyone complain about that.
Okay. Well, good deal. And like I said, I've personally never experienced a negative issue, because if you haul a gooseneck trailer, you realize it feels very similar to hauling a fifth wheel, right?
Correct.
And yes, I understand that this plate right here to some folks means, you know, the less of a chance that the RV can rock side to side. But at the weights we're talking about, that's not so much an issue, I think.
Agreed, yeah. Most of that's going to be done with the axles anyway. I don't think it's really going to be messing with that much.
Very good.
Technically, these do move side to side, which would technically kind of mimic what these would do on a ball anyway. So it's really not going to be that noticeable, if at all.
And if it was moving that much, you'd make bed rail contact in your truck before an RV would ever roll over.
And if it's moving that much, you probably have something else you need to fix anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so now we have the Demco Recon, which I did a video out here with Jake, and boy, did people like they love their Demcos. It was the fan base of folks who said I run a Demco and love it was huge.
Yeah.
I didn't expect it. So you tell me, what is your take on the Demco Recon?
Demcos, especially the Recon, because it is significantly lighter than some of the B&Ws, and it does attach to the ball, or like the ball and or the gooseneck hole where the ball goes. They're also very popular. They're significantly lighter, which people really do like. And yeah, they're sturdy. They're probably, B&W would be my number one to go to. Demco would probably be my number two.
Okay, and you can tell they're built really well. And I like the smaller footprint here. So if you remove this head assembly, you have a relatively low profile footprint if you need to put things in the bed of your truck here as well.
Yeah, this one is also really easy to take apart. So once you pull the head out, you just got your base, and it's a lot easier to remove than some of the other ones.
Very cool. So next to us here, we have an Airborne Sidewinder. This is specifically designed for trucks that may be a little bit challenged in the turning area because of their bed length, right?
Correct,
so
yeah.
they're
5.5 foot. These are pretty much needed.
Yep, and their answer to this is by moving the pivot point from, instead of being directly over the kingpin or this part being over that, they've moved it back about 22 inches so it rests back here. So I could see pros and cons to this. A con is that you've moved your pivot point back behind the axle. And I know some folks will say, well, the weight is still resting over the fifth wheel hitch, but that's not much different than towing a conventional trailer, because the weight is still resting over your leaf springs at that point. So have you ran into issues with anybody saying that with this type of system, they've picked up sway from a fifth wheel, or is it just, it's not far enough back potentially to where it impacts it that much?
I have heard that before, once or twice. It's not very common, but people do. I have heard it before, but generally it's not back enough for it to really affect it that much.
It would take a really extreme situation, I would imagine.
Correct.
To if you're moving your lever arm 22 inches back, it's not that much. But if you're going 70 miles an hour down the interstate and a car slams its brakes on in front of you and you lock everything up and you don't have your trailer brakes dialed in properly, I could see how if you start skidding sideways and jackknifing, how that could play a role in it. But at that point, you'd have other issues. I mean,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And that's a pretty extreme situation, and granted, it does happen, but generally, no, there's no issues with it.
Okay. And this has been a really popular product. This
Yeah.
has been out for a while. Not only has it been out, but Reese is no longer the only one to have this type of system now, right?
Yeah, Lippert has one. Well, Kurt now, but yeah, they're popular, especially with, again, the 5.5 foot beds, because you can't use a slider with those because they go back too far and they'll hit your tailgate. These are pretty much your only option. Demco actually does make one for the 5.5 foot beds, but generally these are what you have to use, and they work perfectly fine. They're good products.
Very cool. Well, let's move on to a couple more unique products in a little bit different area, but I think they're definitely worth mentioning. Okay, so now we've moved to a really cool display here. This is the folks over at Blue Ox. What's going on, Danny?
Hey, how's it going?
Doing good. So I got Laser here with me as well. This is a relatively new product on the market. So do you know when this was introduced?
About 6 weeks ago.
So, okay, I thought you was going to say 6 months ago. So this is really new. And I know the folks at eTrailer have this because my last trip here, they were taking pictures of it. This is a beautiful, beautiful looking fifth wheel hitch. Now, from a design perspective, I see what's going on. It looks like you have the ability to clamp it on top of a goose ball. And then I believe you also have this set up so it can work with the rails. Correct. If you have the rails in the bed of your truck. So from the top, this is interesting. I'm imagining you lower the kingpin in here.
Correct.
And this is your locking mechanism, and you have basically a bolt style lock that's going to go into place. And Laser, do you want to help me out here and maybe we can unpin this and kind of show how this works. So that pops out.
That's reloaded.
Okay, so and you twist it sideways.
Right.
So we're trying to figure all this out because we think we're smart people. You drop your pin box inside of here, your kingpin inside of here, you flip it back, locks in place. Throw your pin in place right here. I cannot emphasize enough of how important it is to drop a pin in place here, which I'm trying to do with one hand. But, there we go. But the pin ensures that the handle won't come out. But what I like about this setup, though, is that this is spring-loaded. So if, heaven forbid, you don't put the pin in, it's not catastrophic unless maybe you're turning and somehow it pushes against that, which pops it out, which I don't even think that would really be an issue. But you always want to put your pin in. Every fifth wheel hitch that I can imagine has some type of a safety locking pin that you need to have in place. But from a overall footprint perspective, very low profile. I like how it looks like you can rotate on, is it a single axis, or how does this rotate? This is interesting. So this moves, so this is directly mounted above where your goose ball would be. And then it definitely has forward and backward motion.
Oh, yeah, it's got this latch back here for tightening onto the ball.
Okay. Oh, and this offsets it back. So you're going to get, what, probably about a 4-inch offset on this thing. So it's going to place it slightly back, which might give you a little bit of clearance if you have a shorter bed truck, possibly. But that is a very, very cool product. So this is a new product from Blue Ox, and yeah, definitely wanted to show you some of the differences here. Now, a big difference, though, is you are going to have to lift your fifth wheel pin box up a little higher to drop it in. Just like anything that's gooseneck related, you have to go over the ball and drop it in. So with this, you would have to definitely raise your kingpin high enough to where it will clear it and then drop it down. But that is really cool. Okay, so there's a lot of folks out here now. They're looking at the different products. The eTrailer folks are actually coming out in waves. So yeah, it's getting really busy out here. I'm going to turn this fifth wheel segment into 2 videos. That way you guys get the time you need to see everything without it just being one long drawn out video. So guys, if you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon with the rest of the fifth wheel hitches. And you're definitely going to want to subscribe and get notifications on the next couple ones I'm going to show you because they're very different than what you might normally see.